Hello everyone and welcome back to the GeekWave. This is the final GeekWave of 2021. And man, has it been a good year. I think the podcast kind of hit its stride. Kind of in the middle of this year, I've always just been confused how to make this one work, but I enjoy doing the GeekWave stuff, and this is the only place on any of my channels where I've decided I'm going to do the top 10 stuff. Mainly because I wanted to do it for the GeekWave anyways, and if I did separate videos, it's just me reiterating the stuff I'm going to mention here. So in this video, we're going to be talking about the top 10 movies of 2021, the top 10 television shows of 2021, and the top 10 comic books of 2021. And I think it's gonna go good, you know? It's going to be kind of fun, interesting stuff to talk about, and if it goes poorly, then that happens too. Things aren't always what they seem. We are in unprecedented times, and things are just going to go the way they want to. So it's kind of fun, I guess. Interesting concepts and all that. Whatever, you guys get it. So before we actually get into the top 10, there is a little bit of news I wanted to talk about. There's not a lot. There's just two things I thought I'd bring up for a bit. The first one is the inevitable realization that Spider-Man No Way Home has officially passed $1 billion worldwide. I knew this was coming. It's going to be one of the biggest films of all time. And I kind of like that it is getting this recognition. It's a fine film. I'm not going to say it's perfect or it blew my mind or anything. And I think if people say it blew their mind, then they're lying to themselves, because everything we knew about this film we already knew, like, pre-seeing it. So that kind of bothers me. And people are like, I've never seen anything like this. Like, every fucking movie you've seen is going to be like this now because you think this is brilliant. And that's going to be a problem going forward. But it's cool. I will say that's exciting. There is an Oscar push for this one for some reason. Now, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I don't think it's bad at all. An Oscar push for this film, I get it. I really do. Would I personally push this to be a Best Picture? No, because it's pretty basic looking and it doesn't have anything special in terms of like directing or cinematography. It's a good story. I could see an original screen or an adapted screenplay credit going towards this film, but no acting awards, no like CGI awards, none of that shit. It doesn't deserve them, but cool. Eternals was supposed to be that film, but it's not. Eternals was just so weird. Eternals is not on my list for the top 10. I should actually specify that right now. I don't have any superhero content for my films on the top 10, but that might change when we talk about the television programs. But that was pretty interesting to me. I do like seeing Spider-Man crossing that line. Superhero fatigue, it's going to come eventually. I just don't know when. And I think if we just keep reinventing the wheel, it's not going to come for a while. But if every other movie is just, let's get all 5 of the fucking Spider-Men together to fight every villain we've ever seen before, I'm going to cut myself, because I don't need to see that every time. But I digress, and I move on to the other piece of news I want to talk about. And that is, we got a new trailer for The Batman. And I have been very skeptical on this film, just mainly because I don't know. I mean, Matt Reeves is a brilliant director, the cast is brilliant, and all the trailers have looked really good and they've impressed me, but this trailer in particular, I think they've been calling it the Cat and the Bat trailer. This is what I needed. I think this is what I need to see from this film to really go, you're doing what this needs to be. You're making a gothic romance and a superheroes look. I have been preaching for so long that we need more romance in our superhero content, like real, aesthetically pleasing relationships you believe in and you buy and you just adore. Not whatever Icarus and Circe was. I mean just full on like some weird sexual pseudo-tension romantic stuff with an awkward Bruce Wayne and a super sexy Selena Kyle. Oh, please do this. If we don't get a sex scene, I'm going to be disappointed, because I would pay good money, and I'm sure a lot of you would too. We'd all pay good money to see Robert Pattinson and Zoe Kravitz kind of kiss for a bit. They're just, oh my God, they are so beautiful. And their chemistry looks great. The scenes they're together are fantastic. This film, it looks so impressive. And I think that's cool. I think I might do No, I'm not going to do a video talking about like my speculations for the Batman, but I don't know how well this is going to do financially. I know it's going to do okay, but it could be the worst grossing Batman film in a while. Which sucks because it looks like the best superhero film in a while. I am literally blown away by it, and the sexual tension is palpable, and that's all I've literally been asking for from content like this. So that is amazing. That is cool, and I cannot wait to see Zoe Kravitz be the best Catwoman we've ever seen, because I honestly think she will be. That's all the news we have. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to start with films of the 2021 variety and my top 10 versions of the films that we're going to be talking about. So stay tuned for that. So out of every single topic I wanted to make the top 10 for, I think films was the hardest just because I really didn't know what to do. There's a lot of films that I loved this year, and I knew they were going to go on the list, and there's some where I'm like, they're good, but do they make the cut? And I like my list. I do. I think it's a lot of obvious choices, but that's fine. You know, sometimes the obvious choice is the right choice, and sometimes you just got to accept what you're doing with those. So, without further ado, this is my list of the top 10 films of 2021. Remember, these are opinion-based, and if your list is different, I completely understand, and I will not hold anything against you for having different opinions than me. So at number 10, I have The Summer of Soul. This is the documentary that came out on Disney Plus, I think in the summertime, because that makes sense. And I always wanted to put a documentary on my top 10 list. I just knew that's because it's a type of like genre I like. And there was the Val Kilmer documentary that I really enjoyed, but I just think Summer of Soul was so much more interesting, just hearing some really great music and people talking about the experience of being a part of this festival and seeing like all the people that it influenced and inspired. It was just really nice, and it was a kind of a beautiful just send off to like that idea, because you know it's kind of a cultural milestone that's not really touched upon, and it kind of influenced a lot of creators and the bands and the people that went to perform there. Hearing like passionate people talk about their experience, hearing that and seeing members of like these bands and these singers talk about actually playing there, that to me is a really cool experience. And as somebody who is a fan of the music industry but has never really wanted to connect to it on a spiritual or more emotional level, I just like seeing that these things get recognition. So Summer of Soul was clearly always going to be something on my list. I just thought that movie was really fun and really engaging, and a great documentary that just highlighted a lot of the cool stuff of the era. Coming in at number 9, we have Cruella. Now, I put this one on my most anticipated for this year because I said it then and I'm going to say it again. Cruella feels like it was built specifically for me. Euro grunge of the 70s, high society fashion, this weird tale where we're taking this broken down woman and showing how she is going to rise above the ranks in like the fashion world. That is so cool to me. And yes, it's a Disney film, so it takes liberties with some things and it doesn't go in depth as I'd like other things to do, but it looks cool. It's visually pleasing. The costume work is incredible. Emma Stone gives probably one of the best performances of her life. I'm not going to say it's her best, but she put a lot in there. Her heart and soul is clearly in there. The characterizations of Jasper and Horace are funny. It's an incredibly well-made film. It's kind of silly with like the dogs like pushing her mom off the cliff, but it's fun. And this film just invoked everything I needed it to, just like grunge and fashion and all those stuff coming together in a beautiful way. It feels very punk, and I think that's kind of cool, especially if you're trying to make Cruella not the villain, but the sympathetic character. It worked really well, and it was just a beautiful film that I thoroughly enjoyed seeing, and it's one I've seen a lot more than other films on this list. So Cruella was obviously going to be on here because it's such a fun film. Coming in at number 8, I have Lamb. Now, if you look at my review of Lamb, I said it's a weird film, and it's kind of different. But honestly, compared to a lot of the other films on my list, I haven't stopped thinking about this one. First off, it's quiet, and I always love a quiet film. I don't like when everything needs to be loud and annoying. When something can just take its time to breathe and tell its story, that is something I appreciate. And Lamb was just so calm and effortless. The cinematography was gorgeous. The acting was so just, nuanced but still reserved, which I appreciated. And I honestly, I didn't make a list of like my favorite moments in film of the year, but I would put the end sequence of Lamb where the big daddy goat creature comes to take its fawn back as probably my most shocking moment of 2021, just because I had no idea that was coming. It didn't even clue into me. I was just like, oh, it's an abomination of a creature. They're raising it as their own kid. That ending really shook me. And I was like, that is so insane. I haven't been able to stop thinking about it. And I seriously love this film. And just goes to show you that A24 picks the best people to make their films. I loved this one so much. We're going to be talking about A24 again. Don't you worry. Coming in at number 7, we have probably my most controversial pick on this list, and that is Birds of Paradise. This is a original streaming movie that came to Amazon in kind of the August, September time. It's about this woman who joins a prestigious ballet academy and how she doesn't feel like she belongs there and kind of just like the friendship she makes along the way. It's probably the cheapest of every film I put on this list, but honestly, it really worked for me. It was a beautiful idea of friendship and love and how you put pressure on these young people to be perfect and that can break them sometimes. I seriously loved the story it was trying to tell. Again, ballet is one of those things where I understand the art form and the beauty about it, but it's not something I'd ever want to get into. And I just appreciate when you can take a concept like that and it doesn't have to be this hard-edged, broken thing like Black Swan. And it's just, we're showing you these people that appreciate the artwork that they are seeing and they are experiencing this for themselves. And to me, that is really impressive, and that's a really cool thing to portray and to see on screen. Birds of Paradise was just a beautiful story about friendship, love, loss, and sacrifice, and the arts. And I always love seeing arts presented in a calming and fun way. So this one, I don't know how many people have seen it, and it's probably the worst reviewed film I have on my list, but it honestly is heartfelt, it's emotional, and Birds of Paradise really surprised me. Coming in at number 6, I have Belfast. This one, I knew was going to be on there the moment I saw it. It was just so heartfelt and warming, and it was just a nice story about, growing up and finding your way in the world. It's another one of those ones kind of like Birds of Paradise where it's like the artwork it's trying to talk about is the key, where this kid is so obsessed with film and he just sees the wondrous beauty of it all. That's really cool to me. I just love seeing that kind of story portrayed perfectly, and Belfast did a great job with that. The acting is phenomenal in this. Everybody is at the top of their game telling this story, and it works incredibly well. It is an incredibly beautiful film. It's just so nice and pleasant, and just having like the emotional beat at like the beginning when the actual riots start and showing the progression of this family's dynamic. It is incredibly strong and incredibly satisfying. Coming in at number 5, I have The Eyes of Tammy Faye. I freaking love this movie. It is insane. It is trippy. It is just watching these religious freaks lose control of their life around them as they are spiraling into success. I adore everything about this. Chastain still, I think, needs to be nominated and she should win. That could be controversial a bit here, but I seriously love this. Garfield delivers an insane performance as this man who is so clearly horny throughout every interaction he has that it's just unbearably insane. I just adore every second of this, and I cannot believe I liked this one as much as it did. As somebody who graces the lines between religious and non-religious, I just think it portrays people who support this in a very interesting light, and I liked the light it was presented in. Very weird film. Coming in at number 4, I have Pig. This was so good. Oh my goodness, I was blown away. I heard people talk about this as the Nicolas Cage film to watch this year. Wow, it just blew my mind. It's so quiet about this guy trying to find his truffle pig, and it just spirals into this like weird artsy film about the world of culinary arts and the people that, bake goods and all this, and just seeing the respect for an aged chef and how people treat him in this world is so insane. The entire time, Nicolas Cage looks like a complete and utter mess. He is quietly delivering one of the best performances he's done in years. It is so beautiful and creepy. Some people are like, it's John Wick for cooking. Kind of. It's like that secret society world where everybody just respects this one guy, and it's utterly insane and disturbing. And Pig is such a phenomenal film. If you haven't seen Pig, it is worth the watch because it's not what you're expecting. If you're expecting some weird action piece, it's not that. It's like this guy kind of breaking down, realizing that maybe his life isn't what it's supposed to be and what he comes because of it. It's amazing. And the climactic ending where he cooks a dinner for this kid's father, holy shit. Talk about game-changing. Game-changing performance. Unbelievable. Coming in at number 3, I have Spencer. I sang the praises of this film in my review, and I'm going to continue to do so. It is such a good depiction of Princess Di. Is it authentic? Maybe here and there there's some misses and some hits in that regard, but everything about this film just worked for me. The acting was great. The idea of the story it's presenting, this woman trapped in this own world, and she's trying to find a way to breathe in it. I just adore. Kristen Stewart, phenomenal. Knocking it out of the park. Tide of Chastain to me of who should win the Academy Award. I think Spencer was beautiful. It was emotional. It was raw. It was telling such a gripping and compelling story that at every turn I didn't know what was going to happen, and I just adore when a film does that. It is such a good release to see this woman get the respect she deserves because she had it rough. No matter fictional or real, that woman went through something, and just seeing that and the culmination of her experience was such a positive thing to see on film. I adore Spencer, and I really think a lot more people should see it. Coming in at number 2, I have The Green Knight. This film is so fucking beautiful. It is one of the nicest looking films I have ever seen. Every single shot is so perfectly framed and choreographed. The story is so still and quiet and reserved. Holy shit, is it is awesome. Just taking the concept of like the high society, like knights and all of that, and doing something completely different with it, where it's about like the fable itself as opposed to this like action sequence where everybody's fighting dragons and shit. Such a cool idea. Like the end 10 minutes I think are brilliant and probably some of the best stuff I've seen all year. I would put it up there of the ending of Lamb because holy shit, it just changes your perspective on so much stuff. And again, it just shows you that A24, they know how to make films and tell some really good stories. This film is so gorgeous. It is so perfect. The cast is great. The story is great. The Green Knight is so phenomenal. And it would be my number 1 if my number 1 didn't slip into the number 1 position after seeing it. That, of course, is West Side Story. I just did a review on West Side Story, and I gotta say it again, it is such a good film. It is breathtaking. It's a top 10 Spielberg for me, top 3 maybe. It is just a masterclass director saying, I still know how to make a film. Everybody can shut up and just see the skills that I can portray because I am good at this, and that to me was so cool to see. The cinematography is fantastic. The acting is great. Even somebody like Ansel Elgort, who I don't particularly love, he can't ruin this, and that's the impressive thing about it. So that is my number 1 film of 2021. When we come back from this break, we're going to jump into the world of television. The television of this year was probably the hardest category for me to do, just because I knew every single one on this list right away. I just had to pick an order to put them in. And my order was so hard because there's so much great television this year. We are getting more great television than we are movies, I think. And that's a shame because I love film and television is a good art form and it's becoming more cinematic, which I appreciate. But we really need to do better on our films sometimes. But that's neither here nor there. We are here right now to talk about television and my top 10 of 2021. Starting with my number 10, we have Resident Alien. This one came out earlier in the year, and I think it kind of slipped under people's radar because it's so funny. It is so well made, and it's not like the comic book, but that's okay. It's telling a unique experience. It's telling a really funny story with Alan Tudyk giving one of the best performances ever. It is a damn shame that his performance in this role is not getting the recognition it deserves because I will tell you, not everybody could do what he is doing. It is so satirical and off-putting and hilarious that it is probably just one of the best performances ever. The jokes all work. The story is so engaging. The small town vibe it gives off is really perfect. I just really enjoy what it's trying to say there. So that was a really cool thing to see. Coming in at number 9, we have WandaVision. Now, I will say the MCU this year has had a lot of hiccups. I don't think all of it has been perfect, but WandaVision is the perfect, idea that it's like lightning in a bottle. It's just taking a concept. We're having a woman who can alter reality have a mental breakdown because of the death of her husband. And in doing so, she creates a false reality based on old vintage sitcoms that she used to watch of her family, who were also killed by the people who claim to be their savior. I am literally, this is to me is like what comic books represent. They tell unique, individualized stories that homage stuff before it with creating its own identity. It's the most special in this genre, and it's a beautiful piece of art. I've said before, and I will reiterate it here, there are very few pieces of modern superhero television I think are works of art. I think Daredevil, Doom Patrol, Watchmen, and WandaVision. Because it's literally telling this unique story about grief and hardship. It's delivering great dialogue while still maintaining that nature that it's being connected to the MCU. That is impressive. Doing all those beats and making an entire first episode dedicated to, Dick Van Dyke Show, and then jumping to the Brady Bunch and then Malcolm in the Middle. It's like, how is this working? Because it's so insane and ludicrous, but every second of it is perfect and fanatical and just so unique. And WandaVision is absolutely one of the best shows to come out this year. Coming in at number 8, we have Superman and Lois. Everything I said about WandaVision can be reiterated here. Superman is one of my favorite comic book characters, probably second to Lois Lane. I love their chemistry, and I love the relationship that they share on screen, off screen. Elizabeth Tulloch and Tyler Hoechlin are, in my opinion, on the same level of Reeve and Kidder. They really just embody these characters, and you're telling a really modern Superman story while still maintaining what makes Superman Superman, and that is such a rare balance to get. There's just a beautiful idea here about like the power of a Kryptonian going bad and attacking the world, and that being like your central figure is like, no matter what Superman does, he's not going to go bad. I adore that story so much. I think the side characters are really good too. The sons could easily have become annoying and troped up CW teenagers, but you've given them real heart and real emotion where they're trying to do something new with themselves and each other, that it's just really impressive to see. And that just makes Superman and Lois so special and so unique in my opinion. It's rare that CW superheroes actually feel this cool. And I really appreciate what that became. And coming in at number 7, we have Dickinson. And now, if I'm not mistaken, the second and third season came out this year. Because this show is great. And it's such an underrated gem that I wish more people were talking about, because it completely understands what it means to be a writer. It completely understands what it means to be an artist of any kind. And this season, this third and final season, just had a beautiful message about like war and the hardships of being in a time when you want to have your thoughts expressed, but what does it mean to have thoughts when the whole world around you is falling apart? There's a beautiful message there, especially when you're looking at it in 2021 eyes, where, for me, example, I am a writer, and you're like, should I write? How can I write when everything around me is civil unrest, the world is in a pandemic, and we're going back into another one? That is just insane. And the world is just becoming this weird thing, and how do you become a writer in that? And again, Haley Steinfeld delivers the best performance of her career. It's not Hawkeye, I'll tell you that much. It's really not. It's really not. Coming in at number 6, we have Only Murders in the Building. Look, you put Steve Martin and Martin Short in anything, I'm there. These two have perfect comedic timing with each other, and I think it's just cool that these old veteran character actors can sit back and say, we're going to make something special that feels modern. It is insane how modern the show feels from two guys being 70 while they're making it. It is unbelievable, actually. The story is so intriguing. The murder mystery plot actually works really well. It portrays podcasting in a positive light, which is something I always try to talk about and look at. How is podcasting being portrayed when we're talking about it? It's doing a good job of it. And that's so rare to see. Selena Gomez happens to deliver a fantastic performance. Is it flat at times? Kind of, but that's the purpose. She is playing the young generation where things kind of go over her head and she doesn't overreact to everything. Well, you have the flamboyant Martin and Martin over there doing their best at whatever. It is so cool, and I just adore everything about this series. I really want to reiterate this too. It's like it perfectly encapsulates so much diversity. Not just like, with age and race, but like differently abled people, what do you do to represent who and all that. It is really cool. And I think it's rare that a television show just gets everything right and it tells a compelling story while still being funny, dramatic, with cool characters, and keeps you enthralled throughout every interaction. I think that's awesome. Coming in at number 5, we have Ted Lasso. This whole season has been amazing, and this show continues to be one of the most impressive things on television. The fact that we can actually tell like a warm story where these characters go through journeys and they have arcs and everything, and it's positive and lighthearted, that is so amazing to me. It's so rare that we get to do that. And the fact that people are accepting of that is really cool. I have talked about every episode of Ted Lasso this season, so I don't feel the need to go that in depth on it. I will say it's such a good show, and they give such a good arc to Nate Shelley that a lot of people seem to miss the point of what that character is. Coming in at number 4, we have Hacks. Everything I said about Ted Lasso, you can say about Hacks. It is so funny. It is so engaging. The characters are so unique. And it's just telling a really cool story. It's kind of like Only Murders in the Building, where you got a veteran actor like Gene Smart who's like, I'm going to show you what it was like for me in this industry for what I was doing. It's very Joan Rivers in a sense too, but it's such a good story. It feels so modern, and every character just understands the assignment on this thing, that it's just unbelievably powerful and unique. And it just changed my life, honestly, in a bunch of ways, where I'm like, we can tell these intimate, dramatic stories, but still be funny and still have these open-ended things. Like, Hannah Einbinder, to me, is one of the funniest comedians out there, just because she is just so singular in her idea. It's not like we're going to overreact. We're just like, okay, yeah, we're going to talk about these things and explore them. I really just love what Hacks did, and like the big dialogue speeches that Jean Smart gives when she's talking about what it means to be in this industry and how she survived in this industry and how she is treated in this industry. There's so much heart and homages there. I just adore it so much. Hacks is so good. Please check it out. Coming in at number 3, we have The White Lotus. This one is kind of personal and why it's on my list, because it's just dark humor personified, just literally talking about tragedy and all these dark things and culturalization of certain people, and turning into this like really interesting dark comedy. It worked so well, and every joke just landed. Every single like performance was great. Steve Zahn continues to be the most underrated actor out there. He is just so great in everything he does. I adore it. And Jennifer Coolidge, again, I love this woman. I want to be with this woman. She is just so funny and engaging and tells a completely original and cool story. She is so fascinating and so fun. The White Lotus was a great miniseries, and I think a lot of people should check it out because it just has so much going for it, and it's just quiet and dark and awkward, and it's such a good show. And coming in at number 2 is probably my favorite show of the year, if not for this last one, Physical. I will never not sing the praises of this first season of Physical. It is so revolutionary. I think it's one of the best interpretations of the 80s because it's not glitz and glamorous. It's just dark and matted and weird colors, and it's just an awkward timeline where everyone's supposed to act a certain way. And this really like encapsulates like the end of the flower power era, where it's just like we're going into what's going to become the modern globalization of just like big corporations taking over. It is such a good performance from Rose Byrne. It is heartbreaking to see this woman just tragically yell at herself and have an inner monologue where she's not worthy, where she is broken. It is so intense, so powerful, so 80s, great soundtrack. Everything about Physical worked for me on such a spiritual level. It blew my mind. And every time I'm watching this episode of this show, I'm just wincing like, wow, I cannot believe we are going here. This is intense and scary. Why is Physical making me feel this way? It should just be a silly thing like Glow, but it's not like Glow. It's about eating disorders and hating yourself and wanting to kill yourself and struggling to find your word and how your life spirals out of control when you lie to yourself and the people around you. Oh, I love it. Physical is such a brilliant piece of fiction. Everyone should watch it. You should watch it right after you watch my number one spot, which is so obviously and so clearly the Beatles Get Back. Now, I am not a fan of the Beatles as much as some other people. I do like them. But the Get Back documentary changed the way I view bands in general, where you just see the creative process so perfectly fluctuating between every band member to create the music we are seeing. You see the chemistry between these guys where they were friends. They might have fought and they might have bickered, but they didn't hate each other. And the circumstances that led them to breaking up is really tragic because they're genuinely good together and they can tell a really fun story. So the Beatles Get Back just completely changed my view on them as creators. It changed my view on how I see art being made, because when you see it distilled by professionals in their industry and their craft, it breaks you. And you're just like, nothing will ever be the same after this. Paul McCartney is probably the unsung hero of just artistry, because he is just so smart in how he approaches it. I adore it, and it's so brilliant. So, of course, the Beatles Get Back had to be number one on my list of best television of 2021. Now, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to jump into the world of comic books. Stay tuned. Now, when it came to making the list for the comic books, this one was really hard. They're all been hard. I don't know why I keep saying one's easy and one's not. There was so many good comic books this year, and I wanted to balance it out between Marvel, DC, and just independent stuff, so I did my best. I do read a lot of Marvel, though. That's the problem. And I try to be fair to everybody else, but Marvel is definitely a big influence in my life, and I have read more Marvel books than anything probably. So at number 10 for comic books of 2021, I'm putting the event comic that was Heroes Reborn. This is very insider baseball to me, and I do appreciate that in the comic book format, because the people who read comic books are comic book fans. And when you try to cater to that audience, you can sometimes get lost in the minutia of it all. But sometimes you create something like Heroes Reborn where you're like, no, if the Marvel Universe didn't have the Avengers, they'd have the All-Star Squadron, the Squadron Supreme. That's what I meant to say, the All-Star Squadron, someone else. They'd become the DC Universe. And having Jason Aaron actually write a story where we see the characters of the Squadron Supreme represent the DC Universe characters is really brilliant to me. And there's something special about that I just enjoy seeing. And when the Avengers do come back, it's in this really interesting fashion. This book just worked. It told a fascinating story, and I enjoyed every second of it. So Heroes Reborn had to go on my list. Coming in at number 9, we have the other history of the DC Universe. I haven't talked about this one on my channel, mainly because I don't really know how to approach it. It is insanely good. It is written like a prose novel where it's just, the character of that issue talking about their experience as a minority character in a world that represents the Justice League, where they're mostly white. There is issues with Black Lightning, with his kids, with Bumblebee, and who was the other guy? Guardian. I think Malcolm was Guardian, right? There's the Katana issue. There's the Renee Montoya issue. I personally liked the Katana issue because I've always been a fan of that character. But everything with this book was so incredibly well written. It's beautiful artwork. It's just telling such an enriching and powerful story about being a superhero, being a costumed character in a world like this. It changes your perspective on a lot of things, and it opens your eyes to maybe Black Lightning being one of the best characters that DC has to offer. And I think that's really cool. And just having, minority writers create this story is so impressive, and it just made me so happy. Coming in at number 8, we have Fantastic Four Life Story. This miniseries is pretty much everything I wanted from a life story version of the First Family. They are just part of the cultural zeitgeist. They are experiencing things from different wars to different presidential campaigns and different movements and marches, all under the guise of Reed slowly losing his mind because of Galactus. And it tells some great stories, and it probably has my favorite single issue of comic books this year, which is Fantastic Four. I think it's the 3rd issue where Johnny Storm dies, because it has one of my favorite mantras. That it's something that I've actually co-opted into my own writing. It's something I've thought about. It's like, life is a dance. No, life is a party. You got to remember to dance. And when the music stops, keep on dancing. There's always something to keep going for, and I love that idea, and I think Mark Russell knows how to tell a good dramatic story when he wants to, and he just sticks to doing his satirical stuff. So that really works for me, and this issue was just so good, and this book was so fun and interesting. Fantastic Four life story. It's so good and so fascinating. Coming in at number 7, I have Immortal Hulk. This book ended this year. I've done a huge retrospective on this series because that's what this deserves. Immortal Hulk is a revolutionary comic book. It is a modern day Vertigo book put to the Marvel Universe. It's amazing. And that final issue was just incredibly powerful and evoked this really interesting idea. I wish they gave it some breathing room before jumping into the next, Hulk run, because it's just this powerful image of a character just figuring out what their purpose is, and that there is no purpose, that sometimes the Hulk just needs to exist. And that's really fascinating and heartfelt and emotional and just insane. Coming in at number 6, we have Barbarella. And this one, I think, holds a special place in my heart because I'm a massive Barbarella fan. I've literally just wanted Barbarella to be represented properly for a long time, and this latest series from Dynamite is doing that. It's giving her so much to play with, so much fun stuff. The artwork is fantastic. The entirety of this book has really just encapsulated the perfect spirits of Barbarella for me, that's giving this girl something really cool and unique to experience and do. I'm so happy with it. I'm super ecstatic that it's become something so cool and culturally fun. I adore that a lot. Coming in at number 5, we have the Blue Flame. I was debating putting Iron Man on here from Cantwell. I decided to do the Blue Flame solely because it's taking an independent work and doing something special with it. This book, I have sung its praises since day one. It is this unique experience, kind of like Star Trekian in that old school science fiction way, where we're seeing this hero go on this intense journey and learn about themselves and explore what it means to be human, what it means to be a hero, and what it means to save the world, and what is humanity's worth. I love when people can tell us what humanity is worth through what we're not worthy of doing. That is an impressive feat to pull off, and this book does a great job of just capturing that energy, and I adore every second of that. Coming in at number 4, we have Wonder Girl. I love this book. Yara Fleur is a character I have been championing since her first appearance. I love the idea of this girl, and this book has just been incredibly fun. The artwork has been great. Joelle Jones is painting a beautiful picture by giving us some new ideas for the Amazons and playing with so many old themes and characters that it's amazing it's working the way it is. The book is beautiful to look at. It's for a great read, and I just have adored every single second of Wonder Girl. This book really is just reinvigorating the Wonder Woman franchise and doing something cool with it. So Yara Fleur is a character I feel like we're going to be hearing more about her very soon, especially with the Trial of the Amazons coming up, but it's been an incredibly fun journey so far, and I can't wait to see where it goes. And coming in at number 3, I have The Me You Love in the Dark. I was kind of hesitant on this book for a bit when I first did my review of it, but the more I started to think about it, the more I was like, this is genuinely special. It's kind of just like the art of relationships. And, I talked about it even just talking about the Batman stuff at the beginning here. I like my gothic romance. I love the idea of there's some tragedy in the beauty of romance and love that can be explored in these interesting and creative ways. I think this book did a great job of doing that. Scotty Young delivered an incredibly fun script, letting his characters have room to breathe and create their relationship naturally, and how it kind of turns on its head into this thing of abuse and the cycle of what art does to you when you try to create it. I said it too, you can look at this as it's either interpreted as an abusive relationship, as somebody so obsessed with their art that it starts to hurt them, or it's literally just a girl falling in love with a ghost. There's so many interpretations for this that I just think it's an incredibly fun piece of fiction that came out this year, and something that is going to be remembered for a while. And coming in at number 2, we have Beta Ray Bill. What else do I need to say about this book? Daniel Warren Johnson just said, I'm going to make a tragic story about a man who hates himself and the way he looks, and he's going to go to the ends of the earth to figure out how to be beautiful again. This whole story is about the price of beauty. What does it mean to be beautiful? Is it outside? Is it interior? It's so tragically broken and just distraught. I don't know what else I could say. Beautiful artwork, beautiful writing. It changes everything with the Beta Ray Bill character. Tells a unique story. So good, man. It is such a brilliant book. And it would be my number 1 it would be my number one, if not for a little book called Moon Knight. And I might be a little biased because Moon Knight's my favorite comic book character of all time, but the fact that I can openly sit here and tell you that a Moon Knight comic book is the best ongoing comic book at Marvel blows my mind, because this book, not only does it look great with Alessandro Cappuccio's artwork, but Jed MacKay is telling such a good story where it is just breaking down this character, distilling him into the version of himself that is both what the culture wants and what he doesn't want to become. The writing is so poetic and intense. I said that Immortal Hulk was like a Vertigo book. So is this. This is like everything about Sandman, taking a character and shoving him into this world where it's magical and weird and just breaking him down to this perfect personification of what he's supposed to represent and what he is supposed to be. Moon Knight is such a good comic book. And it's amazing to me that a Moon Knight comic book is actually doing as well as it is. Like, it's Moon Knight. He shouldn't be the number one book at Marvel. He should be the number one comic book I'm reading this year. Well, it's genuinely breathtaking, and it changes the game, and I think that is super incredible when we're talking about this type of character. So, of course, my number one comic book of 2021 had to be Moon Knight. This was a fun topic, and this was a great year for comic books, and television and movies were okay, and I appreciate everybody who stuck around to listen to this and be a part of this. I really do, and thank you guys. I hope you had an incredible 2021. I know I didn't, so here's to hoping 2022 is going to be better, but Omicron is right around the corner, so I doubt it. Now, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to this on the podcast feed, please give us a rating over there. It definitely helps out. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Have fun. Stay safe. Good luck.